Hello, and welcome to Hidden Archives. In this new series of videos entitled Surname Origins, I will be discussing the origins of some of the most common names in the United States. In this case, surnames, or family names as they're often called. In this first video, I'll be focusing in on the top 10 surnames in the US, and we'll continue to cover the top 100 in the next few videos. I will also mention other names as I go through here, if they ultimately have the same meaning or origin. If you don't see your name in this video and you'd like to request it to be covered in future videos, please let me know in the comments below and I'll try to add it on one of the future videos. The first name I'll discuss today is Smith. Smith is one of those names that we call an occupational surname. This means that if you hold this name, one of your ancestors may have worked as a smith of some sort hundreds of years ago, whether as a blacksmith, silversmith, goldsmith, etc. While most of you, whose name is Smith, likely know that about your name, what you might not know is where the word smith itself comes from. In Old English, the word is similar, although it was pronounced somewhat differently. It was smith, and referred to a person who worked with metal. Smith was derived from the Proto-Germanic word smitaz, which meant simply a skilled worker. This word in turn was derived from the Proto-Indo-European root smi, which meant to cut or to work with a sharp instrument. This could possibly be related to smed, which is the origin of the word smite, which in addition to meaning to hit could also mean to kill. Therefore, while the word now means a metalworker, older meanings could be artisan, cutter, or sharp instrument worker. Moving on, we come to number 2 on the list, which is Johnson. This is an example of a Scandinavian naming convention, whereby someone was named for their father. Therefore, if you hold this name, one of your ancestors may have had a father named John, since this means son of John. John comes from the Hebrew name Yochanan, which means Yahweh or God is gracious. This is also sometimes translated as God's gracious gift. Son comes from the Old English sunu, derived from Proto-Germanic sunus, which is in turn derived from the Proto-Indo-European word suchnus, all keeping the meaning of son. Suchnus is in turn derived from another Proto-Indo-European word, seuch, which means to give birth, and is in turn derived from the Proto-Indo-European seu, meaning to pour or squeeze, with the derived word seuch possibly referring to the squeezing of the child through the birth canal. Ultimately, Johnson can mean son of God's gracious gift. The Spanish name Ibanez has the same meaning, since Iban is the form of the Spanish Juan, which is also ultimately derived from Yochanan. The EZ ending on the name is a Spanish borrowing from the Basque language and means son of. Jackson is another name that has the same meaning, since Jack is derived from the French Jacques, which is a variant of John. Jones, a Welsh form patronymic, also means son of John, so it has the same meaning and origin as the name Johnson. The third name is Williams. The S on the end of the name is a Welsh patronymic form, so it means son of William. But what does William mean and where does it come from? William is derived from the Norman French name Guillaume, which is cognate with the modern French name Guillaume or the Spanish Guillermo. All are derived from the Germanic name Wilhelm, which is a compound of the words willeo, which means will or determination, and helm, which means protection or helmet. In this context, the name means resolute protector. Willeo is a form of the Proto-Germanic word wiljan, which is derived from the Proto-Indo-European wel, meaning to wish or will something. Helm is derived from Proto-Germanic helmaz, which is also the origin of the word helm, as in the helm of a ship, since this word has to do with the act of protection which a navigator does by steering the ship rightly, thus protecting those on board. Helmaz is derived from the Proto-Indo-European kel, meaning to cover, conceal, or save. The K sound shifted to an H sound within the Germanic languages. Interestingly, kel is also the root of the Latin word color, which we have brought into the English language as color. Ultimately, this name means son of the resolute protector. The fourth name is Brown. This is a surname that was derived from a nickname. Someone who was given the surname Brown usually receives such a name due to the color of their hair, or due to having a dark complexion from being out in the sun a lot. The word brown comes from the Old English brun, meaning brown, dark, or dusky, which is derived from Proto-Germanic brunaz and ultimately from Proto-Indo-European bruchn. Both the Proto-Germanic and Proto-Indo-European forms meant either brown or gray. They didn't really distinguish between the two. The fifth name is Davis. This is another Welsh patronymic form name, and it means son of David. David is derived from the Hebrew name Dawid, which is derived from the Hebrew dod, meaning beloved or uncle. Therefore, Davis could ultimately mean either son of the beloved or son of the uncle. The sixth name is Miller. Miller is another occupational surname like Smith. A miller is one who operates a mill and grinds grain into meal or flour. Meal and mill are cognates. Miller is derived from the Middle English mille, meaning mill. By the way, the name Milner is another form of the same name, except that it comes from the Norse milnari, which means the same thing. Other variants include Mueller, Moeller, and Myler, along with various spellings of each of those names. The Middle English mille was derived from Old English millen, which was actually derived from the late Latin molina. This was related to the Latin word molere, meaning to grind, which was derived from the Proto-Indo-European mele, meaning to crush or grind. That Proto-Indo-European word was also the root of the word meal, as in edible ground grain. The word meal, as in the partaking of food, is not related, but comes from another Proto-Indo-European word, melo, which referred to a measure of time. The seventh name is Wilson. This is a patronymic form name, meaning son of Will. As I mentioned previously with Williams, Will comes from Willeo, derived from the Proto-Germanic Willian, and ultimately from Proto-Indo-European wel, meaning to wish or will something. Therefore, Wilson means son of determination. The eighth name is Moore. This is what is called a topographical surname, meaning the person was named after a description of the land on which they lived. In this case, Moore was a person who lived on the moor, which is a piece of uncultivated upland or highlands. This is derived from the Old English moor, which referred to an uncultivated tract of land, often overrun with heath. This term could also be used to refer to a swamp or bog. This is derived from the Proto-Germanic mora, which was likely derived from mere, which meant to die. Correction, this is derived from the Proto-Germanic mora, which is likely related to mere, derived from mer, which meant to die. Therefore, this term could mean dead lands, with the basic sense of a marsh. This Proto-Germanic word is derived from Proto-Indo-European mori, which in turn is a variant of the Proto-Indo-European mer, which means sea, lake, or wetland. Therefore, the name Moor can mean dweller of the moors, but if you take it back to its earlier roots, it can also mean dweller of the highlands, dweller of the marsh, dweller of the dead lands, lake dweller, or even sea dweller. The ninth name on today's video is Taylor. Taylor is another occupational surname derived from the differently spelled word tailor. It is derived from the Old French word tailleur, meaning cutter, from tailler, meaning to cut. This was in turn derived from the late Latin tagliare, which comes from the Latin tallea, which means cutting, but could also mean scion. This connection could be due to agriculture, where a new plant can be grown from a cutting of an old one. The original origin of tallea was the Proto-Indo-European root ter, which meant to grow. The 10th and last name on today's episode is Anderson. This is another Scandinavian name and means son of Anders. Anders is a form of the name Andrew, which is derived from the Greek name Andreas, which means man or manly. This is derived from the Greek andros, which means man. Andros is the genitive form of aner, which has the same meaning, and is derived from the Proto-Indo-European word ner, which means man, but is also the root of the word hero. Therefore, Anderson means son of a manly man, or alternatively, son of a hero. That concludes this episode of Surname Origins. If you liked this episode, please subscribe and tell your friends about this channel. Until next time, this is Hidden Archives.